Hey everyone, welcome to episode 36 of Tuesday Tips. Today we are talking about specific stuff, finally. We're doing 5x5 centers today. So the way it's going to work, 5x5 centers this week, then next week 6, next week 7, and then we're going to do 5, 6, and 7 last 4 edges in the next 3 weeks after that. So that'll be the next 6 weeks. Today's 5x5 centers. Out of all the tips though, this one is still slightly less specific than the others just because 5x5 centers specifically are so simple that it's a lot based on just doing the centers as quick as possible. For 5 centers, the whole idea is that you need to be turning as fast as possible. The center cases are so simple and usually so obvious that anyone can see them or any good cuber can see them almost immediately. You just got to be turning as quick as possible. You just still want to be working on efficiency, but usually the efficiency things you're doing aren't as tricky as 6 and 7 centers. They're more obvious. So in general, the idea is for efficiency means you obviously want to turn as fast as possible, and your efficiency revolves around just whenever you do anything, you want to solve as many pieces at the same time as possible that are you're actually going to be solved. So we'll kind of get to that later. The first thing with 5x5 centers, so we're just going to walk through the parts. Inspection is obviously a part of 5x5 of centers for every cube. So inspection, what you want to be looking for at the top level is you want to be able to see completely 2 bars. You should be able to see and memorize 2 bars, and you want to also be able to have, that should be every single time, you should be able to see and memorize 2 bars just like your cross. Alright, I see here, I got my 2 bars, that was blind, that was easy. 3 bars, the whole first center, a lot of times you should be able to do completely blind. This is not necessarily a guarantee though. For a lot of cases, all you really want to do is blind 2 bars and know where the 3rd bar is going to be. So you should be able to completely do the first 2 bars and then have a general idea of know which face the last 3 pieces are going to be on. So in this case, I see blue. Alright, I'm going to make these 2 with the center, and then I got the back piece here. This one I can do blind, so oh, whoops, okay. So I didn't quite do it blind, but I knew where the pieces were going to be. And then the key is that you do the first 2 centers, the first 2 bars super quick, so you want to have them memorized. And then the 3rd bar, even if you don't have it memorized, while you're doing the first 2 bars, you know where the pieces are going to be, you know where to look for them, and then you can easily find them and do them seamlessly. So that's the first center. Oh, that's kind of inspection. So now what you're looking for when you're building centers, I've been over this in other Tuesday tip videos. Those 5x5 centers are so basic. It's kind of just, there's 2 ways to build your 5x5 center. You either go, well, you're always building a 2x3 is the first goal. So you always end up getting a 2x3 here, and then you build your last bar. The only thing that kind of varies is how you build your first 2x3. So there's 2 different ways to do that. Either you build usually a bar in the middle, and then you build a second bar, and then you get your 2x3. Or you do a 2x2 here, and then you get another 2x1, and then you make your 2x3. That stuff is pretty basic. At the advanced level, I'm sure you already are using this. I've been over this stuff in other videos. I just wanted to quickly go over it. At the super advanced level, it does get a little trickier in the sense that you oftentimes, say you get a case like this W kind of alg here, and this is a pretty standard. You make a 2x1, and then you use this to make a 2x3. So in this case, things like this extra W piece right here, this isn't very useful except for the fact that you know where it's going to end up. And so this is kind of just a thing, you need to be tracking these pieces, make sure you keep know where they all are. That's just part of tracking your pieces in general. And that's kind of not a super expert thing, but you should just be knowing where that is. So after you build your first center with your inspection, memorize your first 2 bars, then you go on to your second center. So the kind of second center is also still pretty basic, but the key super advanced tricks in your second center is that I'm not very good at this, but you don't want to do too many rotations. So the obvious thing is that your center's on your U face, and then to make your bars, you rotate and you do stuff like this, and then you make your bar. Oh, got my bar. Rotate, insert, rotate again. Those rotations are slow. It's important to be able to, but say we're doing our last bar here, you can insert like this. That's really fast, no rotation. Getting used to, or say we have a case like this. this on top. We're already holding you on, or our second center on top. We have this. We can do, like normally if an intermediate solver would go like this, or I would do this also because I'm bad. But we can go. So things like that, where, yeah, if say we had a different case where it was like this. Now this is a little more awkward. We could go like this. At some point, there's gonna be a lot more trickier things to do. The trickier it gets doing like our weird stuff without rotating, the less helpful it is. So at some point, you're just gonna want to rotate and then build your center and then rotate back to insert. But being able to, when it's easy, not do skip 2 rotations is super helpful. 2 rotations is gonna cost you like at least half a second, maybe a full second. Like doing that, not very good. So that's really the only trick with building your second center. So now you got your 2 centers done. When you got your 2 centers done, the next key thing, the only trick, there's no real tricks, not as many tricks involved here in Super Advanced, but because now there's no rotations ever, you're just going straight here. The key is you have to instantly decide what your third center is going to be. You can't, if you waste, at an expert level, centers are taking between 12 to 15 seconds on average. If you waste 1 whole second deciding what center, like, the centers are also so easy that the best center versus the worst center is at most 2 seconds advantage, probably a 1 second advantage. And if you spend 1 whole second deciding what center you're doing, you've already lost that entire advantage. You gotta be able to look immediately and be able to tell. So this one's clearly yellow. We're doing yellow first. That's it. Like, you immediately decide. And then the only other thing, while you're building your first center, a lot of times you'll get bars already made or stuff already made, and 5x5 centers are so easy to preserve. Like in this case, oh, I built yellow, and now I have this piece right here. Oh, I see red bars already done. I could slice to make the yellow bar here, or I could just spend about half a second to save that whole bar. That probably saved me 1 second, spending half a second. Definitely worth it. Just be careful. Make sure you're saving. You want to make sure. Usually saving centers on saving bars or 2x2 blocks on 5x5 centers only takes 1 or 2 moves, which takes about a third, a quarter, half a second, and it's almost always going to be worth it. It's usually really simple, especially when, okay, 1 second. Now oops. Especially when after you're building your first center and you've built your first 2 bars. If you see any, the key is do not make anything. Never. Like in 6x6 and you see something, oh, in like 2 moves I can make this 2x4, that's nice. But on 5x5, you never make anything. It's got to already be done. So in this case, you'd never save anything. There's nothing here. It's got to already be done. If it's already done, then you can go ahead and save it. That's kind of the key here on 5x5. Don't save it unless it's literally already made for you. So now you finish your third center, and now you're working on your fourth center. So the key here, the only real trick here, it's the same thing as before. Save things if you can that they're already made. Okay, wait. Sorry. On your fourth center, you almost never save things unless it's literally like 2 bars, because the last 2 centers are already going to be kind of made for you because there's so few cases. But if it's like 1 move saved for 2 bars, you can do that. But be very careful because you have to make sure you like look how much is this going to cost me versus how much is this going to save me. And usually it's not worth it on the last 2. Like, it should only cost you like a quarter of a second max. The real key here on after you do your fourth center, when you're on your fourth center, is that you got to pick. You should just, unless you have the worst. So if you do your center on F, the next center naturally is the one on U. And unless you have the worst case of all time, and the other center is literally like already done, you're just gonna do the center on U. Because here's the reasons: the chances, even if this center is worse than this center, it's probably only worse by half a second to 1 second. And then doing this rotation, already takes you... Well, first of all, you've already started recognizing pieces that go in this yellow center. While you were doing this center here on front, you've already noticed where pieces are falling here. You've probably already preserved a little bit here. It's most likely going to be easier. The recognition is A, you already know what pieces are there. Recognition is already half done. B, it's probably kind of set up for you. The only reason you would ever switch to this center is if it is literally nothing is there and you see that this center is like already done. I don't know if it's a really big noob trap that people do that, but I definitely recommend not doing that. This was another case like of like saving stuff right here. 1 sec. Like right here, just like right here, I already have this 2x2, so I'm just gonna pick RUs that save it. I didn't actually do any effort here. Like, it cost me literally 0 time and I saved it. So stuff that costs you 0 time and save stuff, obviously a good idea. The only thing with last 2 centers, it's pretty basic. You want to, don't be building 1 bar at a time. Build your first 2 bars on the left. You build your center on F. Build your first 2 bars at the same time. Like, there's not even that many cases. Like, you literally just, it should take you like 3 or 4 moves to build your left 2 bars, and then you just finish. The only other thing I have is sometimes there's specific 5x5 cases for last 2 centers that come up, where there's a little tricky stuff with M slices, but honestly at this level they're pretty obvious still, and I can't really go over them right now. It's just like, be aware for stuff like, oh, like this. If you're only focused on building your left 2 bars, you'd go like this. But this is an obvious case where you go, oops, one sec. Like, this is obviously like, this is the H case, you go like this and then you're done. Like, that's stuff obvious like that, but like if you were building only your left 2 bars on red, you would go like this first and then finish like that, which is stupid. But stuff is usually pretty obvious like that for 5x5 last 2 centers. The only other thing is that in 5x5 it's not as apparent, but like, because usually edges are going to be pretty much solid for you. But let's say you have, like, let's say you have this. So you have, it's 3 moves to finish these 2 centers. Oh, but you have a completed green. It has to be like a completely done edge. Because if you see 2 pieces together, or 2 pieces in like a sort of done place, that's nothing. It's going to happen for you automatically because of how edges are laid out. The only thing that's truly lucky is like, this edge is literally done. So you might as well do 2 moves and then you can start your edges like this with like that, and then you save the edge with 2 moves. It's got to be worth it, and it's never worth it unless you have an edge. It's never worth it to save an edge in your last 2 centers unless it's like literally already done. Also, kind of general tip in transitioning out of centers. A lot of people, like, if you finish your centers like this, you can finish your centers like this, and then rotate and start your edges, which is what I always do. This is not the best idea. I'm kind of doing it as force of habit. In this case, it's fine because we're already slicing, and then we can do this to make the first edge. But a lot of times, it's best to know to pick, because you have 3 different ways you can slice. You can slice around M, you can slice around E, or you can slice around S. And then one of them is going to be the best, obviously. Don't spend any time thinking about this. Just, you can, if none of the edges are solved and you haven't sliced, just find an edge that looks good and then start with that edge, and then use that to determine your slicing patterns. I'm not an expert on that because I don't actually do that myself, but it's definitely a good idea, and I think Max and Felix both do it. The only other last thing I have is that this is just theory, but the only person I know that does this is Xianghook Nam. So when you do your first 2, this is for your last 4 centers. Another thing is, don't build multiple centers at a time on 5x5. Because like, it just goes along with not building stuff to save it. If you're working on your first center and second center is like kind of easy, don't build it and then save it. Only save stuff that's already there. On 5x5, it's never worth it because it's just so easy. So this is just the only theory thing about this. Building, so normally almost everyone builds their 3rd and 4th centers and their 5th center on front or U. Like, you're holding it in front of you, you're looking at it. And I think this is bad. The only person I know that does it holds their center on back. So if you're building blue, you hold it here, is Xianghook Nam. And the thing is, it's like you're doing 3x3. When you're doing 3x3, you build your cross on bottom, right? Because why would you want to look at your cross? You already know it's done. Everything, you don't need to know anything about this face. It's already done. It's the same kind of thought process on 5x5. Why would you need to look at the blue center? That's what you're building. You already know what pieces are there. You should just hold it on back and then put pieces over there like that. And then, now I'm going to build. Now I look at red. I'm building red because it's on back. I look at it once. That's all I need. I know all the pieces there. I can build it blind. And I just did it. Actually, it wasn't too hard. But getting used to it is a whole nother story. It's the same thing, just like, why have your center on front? You already know what pieces are there. Hold it on back instead. That's just a theory thing. I'm pretty confident it's better because obviously you can see more stuff. But it's a little bit harder, and no one's really used to it except for Xianghook Nam. If you're like a sub 1 solver already, it might be something that's worth looking into, but switching is obviously going to be pretty difficult at this point, but definitely something I think is better. So Yeah, it's pretty much everything I got for 5x5 centers. I think that was pretty comprehensive. Had a lot more specific stuff than I ended up thinking. 6x6 centers next week's probably gonna be a pretty big video. I might actually make it 2 parts because I got way too much information about 6x6 centers in my head. This is like the thing I know the most about in literally any topic. So tune into that next week. So yeah, see you guys then.